Having good friends is probably one of the best things you can have in this world. Friends can help you when you're down, give you good advice, and just be some company when you're tired and when you're lonely. I was looking at Reddit just to see some advice on friendships, and I came across 4 good stories from the r/friendship advice subreddit. The first one is from user Luaso51. Work friends are not your personal friends. Title says it all. They are your work buddies, not true personal friends. Once people move on to different jobs, those relationships mostly end. Don't get me wrong, I've made a handful of friends through work over the years, but those friendships grew after no longer being at the same company. At the end of the day, we are at the workplace for one thing, to work and get paid, and no one is going to take the fall for you. When push comes to shove, people are not going to lose their paychecks to keep work friends. Have a life outside of work. I think for the most part, I do agree. Work friends are not your personal friends, and the user Loaso51 has explained it very well. But at the same time, having friendships inside of work is very important because you're going to be at the work environment for a lot of the day. So if you count it up, that you're going to be at home, of course, sleeping for about 8 hours. You're going to be at home at leisure for about 8 hours. And those 8 hours remaining, you're going to be at work. So you want to make sure that you're not having a miserable time and you're with people that are actually quite nice and you enjoy spending time with. For many of us, we meet our friends through the common avenues. For example, neighbours and friends in our area. Another way to make friends is normally in school, high school, middle school, etc. And another way, which as user Luaso has mentioned, is through having colleagues. And sometimes those colleagues can become very close friends, where you go out together, you talk about certain things. So I feel like it is very important that we make friends in every step of our life and we continue to keep contact with them, because if we don't keep contact with them, years will pass, days will pass, months will pass, where they'll move on and they'll have their own interests and your schedules won't fit and you won't make that effort anymore. And I've seen that in my own personal life as well. So for everyone out there, I'd really advise that you text a friend that you've not maybe spoke to for a while and try to catch up maybe, because it's very hard to make friends past 20 and 30. The next comment is from user PrudentCommon4661. General question for those who take forever to reply. Do you guys still like it when your friends still send you messages knowing that you take forever to reply? Does it feel nice to know that they'll still send you a text even knowing that you don't reply right away? Does it feel like they haven't forgotten about you? Edit. Better wording and examples would be, I have 2 friends who take forever to respond, and I know it's generally because their lives are hectic. But even still, I send a text whenever I happen to think about them, like, hey, hope everything's going well, or just checking in to say I miss you and I hope you're having a great day, or just things that remind me of them. They both told me they appreciate it, but I sometimes wonder if I can be annoying with it. I should also note that I don't do this every day. It's just genuinely when something reminds me of them, or there's genuinely something I want to share with them, regardless if they get to me right away or not. I feel like for busy people, it is excused that there's an understanding that my friend is busy, so he might not or she might not answer me at the right time. But for some people, they have a bad habit of, despite being free, they do not get to their messages. And I feel like that's a really bad red flag when it comes to friends, because, you know, leaving someone on red is just a bad thing that we've adopted due to the digital age. If you have something that you need time to answer, let's say it's an important question or just something that it needs time to think about, it's understandable. But if someone just asking you, hi, how you doing, and you air it for 2-3 days, I think that's a really big problem. And I've seen that a lot. I think the middle ground would be that the person goes through the message and sees, is it something I can answer straight away? If so, they should try and answer whenever they can. And if it's a question that requires a lot of depth, or an answer which requires a lot of depth, then I think taking a bit of time is fine. But 2-3 days, I think that's quite a lot. And I think it's a really bad habit that people are airing messages, and it's really, really bad. Like, airing messages is something that just really irritates me. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. But just going back to the question, I don't think it's something that they might feel uncomfortable about, you texting every so often. I feel like that's something that I would cherish as a friend, someone that checks up on me, although maybe I'm falling behind. And I feel like it's very important that we check up on each other. Like, a lot of times I think of something that reminds me of a friend, I just send it. And you might think, oh, they won't really appreciate it, but trust me, they really do. So I'd say keep up. And it's a really good thing that you do. Next comment is from Otherwise Trashes. What's your biggest red flag when it comes to friendships? So this is quite a deep question, so I'm going to take a bit of time to answer this one. I think the first one, which I think is the top out of these answers, is the trauma dumpers. I feel like the trauma dumpers are probably the worst type of friends because they use you and then they essentially just go when they no longer need you. And what I mean is that trauma dumpers, they'll say what they need to say, they'll get your clarification, they get your help. And when it's time for you to trauma dump, maybe sometimes we need it, they're not there for you. And these people are essentially just users, and we need to stay away from them, and we need to stay away from being them type of people. I think the second thing is ego as well. Some people just don't want to admit when they're wrong, and when it's a friendship relationship, it is very bad and it's very difficult to navigate that. For example, you might be right and you're trying to tell that person that they're wrong in that situation, but they're not ready to learn and they're not ready to admit that they're wrong. I feel like that can damage a relationship long term, and it's very hard to go back to a good friendship after that. Another quality that maybe gets on my nerves is probably the clingy nature of some people, that sometimes you're not able to make it to a certain event or you're not able to go on a motive, and certain friends may take it to offence that you're always declining. It might be because you prefer to be at home, you might be an introvert, or maybe you're just not feeling it. I feel like that clingy nature can get to people where we need to be comfortable in our own skin. We should be comfortable being alone and constantly clinging for our friends and to have that time. Although I understand that friends want to be together, but there's sometimes times when it's not able to be done. And probably the last red flag is probably the natures of friends differing. You might be quite a soft, outgoing individual, but your friend might be reclined and quite harsh. This is just a example, but I feel like differing friendship qualities are quite nice, but sometimes they do conflict. So that's just something that I've realised can be a big red flag. Even though that person might be a really good person, it's just very difficult as you're used to. If you're an introvert, for example, you're very used to having introverted friends. When you're an extrovert, it can be quite difficult. Not that they're a bad person, of course. It's just very difficult to sustain a relationship. But I could be wrong here. Next question is from Mooney1916. Am I outgrowing my closest friends? I have 2 close friends that I've known since high school. They're basically my only close friends I have. And at this stage of life, I don't think it's easy for me to make new close friendships. The problem is that over the years, I feel like our core values have become very different. Some of their opinions and beliefs make me uncomfortable. They often say things that I find judgmental or intolerant, and I usually stay quiet because I know discussing these topics won't change anyone's mind and will probably just create conflict. I still care about them because we've shared so many years together, but lately I leave our conversations feeling drained instead of happy. Have any of you experienced growing up apart from long-term friends because your values changed? Is it better to slowly distance yourself, or is it possible to keep a friendship while accepting that you never agree on certain things? I'd really appreciate hearing your experiences. Over time, I feel like I've come with a categorization of friends, and I think this might help you. The first group of friends are your very close friends, and these are the friends that you share everything with. You guys are very compatible. They come to your house, you come to their house, and you guys can, you really bond and you really agree on a lot of things. And this friend group is like your almost go-to friend group. The second group or category of friends that you might have are probably those people that you're comfortable with and you may go out with, but you don't share that close bond as you do with Group A, for example. Those who, you're very, very close with, but you don't have an issue with them. And these people are probably your biggest group of friends, and it's important to keep them close. And your third category is probably determined by those people who you might not be so close with, but at the same time you guys share a connection. For example, high school, for example, you guys did a course together, or you guys just might be neighbours and get along together. I feel like once we categorize our friends, it's more easier that way. So let's say for example, category 1, you probably talk to this person all the time, you text, you send funny messages, funny memes, etc. And you're very close to that person or those people. And the second category, you maybe go out together, maybe eat, maybe have some, fun times, but you're not as close and you wouldn't share very close things with that person. And Group C, you might see once in a while, or maybe call them, etc. Why I say that is because having that distinction really helps you put your boundaries across. For example, your close friend, you might release loosen a few more boundaries. With your category B friends, you might go out with them, etc. But there is not that closeness when it comes to opening up. I feel like there's nothing wrong with this categorization because we're naturally inclined towards certain people. At least that's what I think. And there's nothing wrong with showing a bit more love and attention and closeness towards a certain friend whilst not doing it to another person, but at the same time keeping a base level of respect and kindness, because sometimes we can't help it. We have so much closeness and so much reverence for a certain person, whereas other people, It might be, for example, something that's happened, like you've mentioned here, that the beliefs and opinions may make you uncomfortable. And as a result, you keep your basic friendship and you keep your basic respect, but at the same time, you don't grow that fondness anymore. It's not because they're bad people. It's just because time has passed and you guys have different interests, different beliefs, different opinions about the world. And sometimes that can separate friendships, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But it's better to be comfortable than be drained, as you mentioned in your comment. The next question or comment is from Forever Alone Archives. Are people just generally putting less effort into reaching out / maintaining friendships? Everyone knows that keeping / making friendships as an adult is hard. I always see jokes online about how an adult you have to meet up like a month away because everyone is busy. But I'm wondering if people are also putting less effort in general. I've been trying over the last few months to nurture current friendships and make new ones. Since people find it hard to regularly meet in person, I've been trying to maintain some kind of connection over DMs or text. I ask a lot of questions, but I don't get any back, and it just falls flat after a bit. I try to ask more than, how are you? Since that can become the same convo. Sometimes I send them a post about a new game coming out that I know that they like, and I try to start a conversation about that, but don't get much back. When I do set up a hangout with friends, they always say, we need to hang out more. We need to do this again soon. But then they never reach out to set something up. I don't mind setting things up, but when I look back at it, I have a lot of friendships where I can't remember the last time they planned a hang. For new friends, I've tried being upfront with people I meet in real life at volunteering and community events about shared interests and say, I'm trying to make new friends. Can I follow you on Instagram? Then I DM them and try to get to know them or hang out again. I either don't get much or they leave me on red after I propose hanging out. I have one friend who regularly texts me every week or every other week just asking what I've been up to. And then we get a coffee that same week because we're both actually engaged in a conversation over text. It's great. But a lot of my other friendships don't seem this way. At first, I thought it was just some of my friends that I wasn't getting much from. But now I'm realising that it's most. Is everyone else experiencing this, or do people just not want to be around me? I feel like I felt this as well, and probably a lot of people in this video watching have probably felt the same thing. I feel like now in the digital age, people don't want to come out. They don't want to have that time outside. Rather, they want to be at home just relaxing. And the dopamine pull through social media and other means have just made people just want to be at home rather than just going outside socialising, because it doesn't bring the same sort of enjoyment or short-term excitement and dopamine that going out does. I think just to answer your point as well about friendships, even online, I feel like a lot of people don't want to kindle, not because they don't like that person, it's just because they are so engrossed in social media, in other things, and they're too overstimulated to maintain friendships. And it's not hard, like you've mentioned, like you said, having a conversation beyond just how are you. I feel like there needs to be a social media movement where we try to create this friendship importance again. There's billions of people around the world, but we've never felt more lonelier than ever. And it's probably part blame on social media. And not all of social media, mainly the short form content and the content that glues us to our screens. And we're just so dopamine hungry and so chasing of the short form content that we just get stuck on that. And we're not able to focus and we're not able to develop friendships and relationships that we want to. So just to summarize, I don't think it's you that's the issue. Like you've mentioned about your friend, there are some people that genuinely enjoy a convo online and actually follow you up, for example, with grabbing a coffee or just catching up face to face. So really do keep up your work, and honestly, hats off to you. And let's try and make a movement where we can make sure that friendships are really valued and we really pursue those friendships.